The night sky over the Persian Gulf fractured into a mosaic of kinetic energy as the first salvos of Tomahawk land attack missiles transitioned from the pressurized tubes of the USS Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group into the low-altitude corridors of the Iranian coastline. Far below the flight paths of these subsonic munitions, the humid air of the Strait of Hormuz thrummed with the low-frequency vibration of multi-stage rocket boosters, while the rhythmic flashes of Iranian air defense batteries began to the horizon from Bandar Abbas to the mountainous interior of the Lorestan province. On the ground, the environmental reality was one of sudden, clinical violence. The sharp scent of ozone and burning propellant filled the air as secondary explosions from underground fuel depots sent plumes of dark, acrid smoke billowing into the stratosphere, visible even to satellite sensors in high Earth orbit. This was not a localized skirmish or a routine freedom of navigation exercise. It was the most comprehensive aerial decapitation strike against the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps' strategic infrastructure in the history of the modern Middle East. According to Iranian state media and official statements released by the IRGC's Public Relations Office in Tehran, the United States Navy initiated a series of unprovoked and cowardly strikes against sovereign military installations that were purportedly engaged in routine defensive posture. Iranian officials claimed that the American operation targeted civilian-adjacent infrastructure and that their domestic air defense networks, including the domestically produced Bavar 373 and Khordad 15 systems, successfully intercepted a majority of the incoming munitions before they could reach their intended coordinates. Military spokesman in Tehran further stated that the IRGC's aerospace forces have already conducted a proportional response, claiming to have neutralized several U.S. radar systems and naval assets operating within what they describe as the occupied maritime zones of the Gulf. Symbolically, the Iranian leadership has framed these events as the opening of a new era of resistance, asserting that the presence of a U.S. Fifth Fleet is no longer tenable, and that the IRGC maintains the sovereign right to secure the Strait of Hormuz against what they term foreign maritime aggression. But the story quickly became far more complicated. Before we break down the specific technical capabilities of the U.S. Navy's Tomahawk Block V missiles and the strategic layout of the 12 targeted IRGC missile bases, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you never miss the latest dramatic developments shaping global geopolitics. According to U.S. Central Command and senior defense officials in Washington, the operation was a precisely calibrated response to a series of escalating provocations, including the confirmed Iranian strikes on the Shuwaik port in Kuwait and the Jabal ad-Duqin radar site in Bahrain. U.S. authorities stated that the Navy launched a coordinated strike on 12 distinct IRGC missile bases, focusing specifically on facilities like the Imam Ali Missile Base and the Sharaud military complex, which analysts have identified as critical nodes for Iran's ballistic missile production and launch capabilities. To understand the scale of this counter-narrative, one must look at the technical mechanisms of modern naval warfare. The U.S. Navy utilizes Aegis-equipped destroyers to create a multi-layer defensive umbrella, using Standard Missile 3 and SM-6 interceptors to neutralize incoming threats while simultaneously deploying EA-37B Compass Call aircraft to jam Iranian early warning radars and communication links. Western intelligence reports suggest that, contrary to Tehran's claims of successful interceptions, satellite imagery confirms significant structural damage to at least 29 missile launch bases and 4 key production facilities, effectively neutering the IRGC's ability to sustain a high-volume saturation attack. Between these narratives lies a complex reality that analysts are still working to understand. Why do these 12 specific targets carry such immense strategic weight? The answer lies in the geography of the Second Iran War and the vital role of the Iranian missile farm system in projecting power across the world's most critical energy transit points. By targeting the Imam Ali base in Lorestan and the subterranean complexes in Isfahan, the U.S. Navy has effectively struck the nervous system of Iran's regional deterrent, as these locations house the medium-range ballistic missiles capable of reaching every U.S. base in the Middle East and every major oil refinery in the Gulf. Attacking these facilities sends a strategic signal that the U.S. is no longer willing to tolerate the gray zone warfare utilized by the IRGC. where proxies and covert strikes are used to avoid direct state-on-state accountability. Furthermore, the inclusion of the Shahroud military complex is significant because it is the primary site for solid propellant rocket motor testing, a capability essential for both tactical theater missiles and the potential development of intercontinental systems. The message was clear. The United States has the intelligence, the reach, and the political will to dismantle the IRGC's primary offensive toolkit in a single operational window. The cascading consequences of this strike began within minutes of the final impact, triggering an escalation pyramid that is currently reshaping the global order. First, the immediate military reaction saw the deployment of additional U.S. MQ-9 Reaper drones over Tehran and Shiraz to conduct real-time battle damage assessment, while the IRGC Navy reportedly scrambled fast attack craft in a desperate attempt to mine the Strait of Hormuz. Second, regional governments reacted with a mixture of quiet support and public alarm. The United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia immediately went to their highest state of military readiness, with UAE air defenses intercepting dozens of Iranian drones launched in a retaliatory wave. Third, the global market and economic reaction was instantaneous, as oil prices surged by nearly 12% in overnight trading, with Brent crude crossing the $110 mark amid fears of a prolonged closure of the world's primary maritime choke points. Fourth, diplomatic channels reached a fever pitch as NATO allies expressed a cautious recognition of the threat posed by Iran's nuclear and missile programs, yet simultaneously pressured Washington to avoid a full-scale ground invasion that could destabilize the European energy sector. Finally, the domestic political reaction in the United States has seen a sharp divide, with the White House briefing congressional leaders on the necessity of Operation Epic Fury, while critics, including high-profile media commentators, question the long-term financial and human costs of a second major conflict in the Middle East. That spike in energy volatility has consequences far beyond the borders of the Persian Gulf. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps maintains that this American strike was a failed attempt to weaken the Iranian nation's resolve and that their defensive capabilities remain largely intact. The United States Navy maintains that the mission successfully degraded the IRGC's strategic missile infrastructure and has established a new baseline for regional deterrence. As the smoke clears from the 12 targeted bases, the international community finds itself at a terrifying crossroads where the line between a limited punitive strike and a full-scale regional war has become dangerously thin. The sudden decapitation of Iran's military leadership in earlier phases of this campaign, combined with this latest naval assault, has created a power vacuum that could lead to either a total regime collapse or a desperate, scorched-earth retaliation by the IRGC's remaining hardliners. Will this massive naval strike remain an isolated incident, or is it the beginning of something far larger? Stay tuned for further updates as this situation continues to develop. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss the latest dramatic geopolitical developments shaping the world.
We will not tolerate further aggression in the region.